Hi, Eva Nichols here. Today we're going to paint a fun little Petrel chick, I think it's called. It's just it's kind of like a seagull little chick like this. And we are going to test out using just two colors. I just bought myself a lamp black, which I don't usually paint with black. But I've seen several other YouTubers use this lamp black because it fusses out in a very particular way that is fantastic for creating things like down and fur and things like that. So I thought that would be kind of fun. And then I'm using another color that I hardly ever use, and that's the Sapphire. No, Phthalo Sapphire it's called, from Winsor Newton. It's just a phthalo blue, but it's the red shade instead of the green shade, which is what we usually see people using. So that'll be kind of fun. So it's very simple. I do have a sketch that I can share with you. I don't have the reference photo that I can share with you because I don't want to get in trouble with copyrights and stuff like that. So you'll just have to deal with using my finished painting as your reference. But sometimes that's actually easier than having a photo when you're learning something. And this is about texture. It's texture that we're creating in this little chick. And then, you know, painting eyes is always fun. And I think it's something, painting eyes is something that we often kind of shy away from, or we're afraid of. We think it's going to be so difficult, but it's really not if you take it just step by step. So anyway, grab your paints and let's get painting. Here, today I'm just going to do a quick little study and an experiment using lamp black. I don't usually paint with black, but I bought this lamp black because it spreads and makes amazing textures. So I wanted to test that out on some arches, rough 140-pound paper. This is a block, it's 8 by 10. I put some of the black out here in the lid of my palette, one of my palettes. I don't want to put black in my palette as such, and I'm going to use a couple of different brushes. The one I have here is the Princeton Heritage Round number 10, and then I'm probably going to use a number 3, and maybe I'll use a little around, these are all Princeton Heritage, whoops, I think, yeah. This is number 3, and then this one is, I don't think it says, but it's tiny, tiny, tiny. So it's maybe a number 0 or something like that. And then I'm probably going to use a bigger brush like this one, number 30, from the Mimic Squirrel brushes from Creative Marks for the down and the surrounding area. So anyway, just going to try and see how this works out. And I'm going to start out with the eye. And I'm using the lamp black and the number 10 brush, and I just, you know, traced my sketch onto here, and the eye is quite dark and black, so I'm going to paint around the highlights. I like to get the eye in first because that's such a prominent part of this bird. And there's a little bit of black there. Rinse it out. It's very, very black. And then just rinse it out. I think I might pull out, if I can, a little bit there. This, just like that. And we're going to let that sit for a little while. And then the other thing that's really black is the beak. So here I think I will put a little bit of water into the beak. So it's just kind of, there we go. And then let's get some black on, run that in. It's very black down here. Gonna watch out for these little droplets on the shaft. Let's get those off. Of course, that's no fun if they drop. So of course there's really hard edges here at the outside of the beak, so I'm going to get that in. And then here. And there is a little bit more grayish here. So I'm going to do it like that. And There. And then here it's kind of fuzzing out a little bit because that's where the feathers or the down, yeah, little chick here is mainly down. So I'm gonna put a little bit of water to make it do that fuzzing out thing, if I can. Dab in a little bit more of the black and see if we can get it to do that. Just getting a little bit more black before it dries completely here. And then it's just like that. Okay. Going to put in, there's a bit of a highlight there. I'm going to deal with that later. Right now I just want to get the main color on. And let's do here, see if we can get a little bit of that fuzzing out. There. I don't want any hard edges there. So we're just going to do like this. It has this fun little knobby thing. And then I guess that's probably a nostril. That's super dark. And it also has very hard edges. So here I want to get that same thing if I can. Just putting a little bit of water on all the way here on the edges. Of course I want to get a little bit of that fuzziness that this color is famous for. So I'm running in a little bit of water, so on purpose I'm getting some of that fuzzy texture, dabbing in a little bit more of the pigment. And this is the first time that I paint with that lamp black, so you know I'm no expert at this. I'm learning. That's the whole idea. Learning. So get some more water on, and then let's go here and get that unified like that. And then there's a little highlight on their beak there. And I'm doing this wet on dry, so hopefully I won't get too many hard edges where I don't want them. And I don't really know how easily it, you know, how easily it lifts out, so time will tell. So let's see. So it's darker in here. And then I'm just going to go over here, get that highlight and that highlight. I'm going to try and lift out here. I don't want those highlights to be white because, you know, they're not white. This one's almost white, but not quite. And then here. And then here is also like a little bit of a highlight. So I'm just gonna drag a little bit of color, but like that. And then really get this dark here, the edge underneath here. And then loose that edge. And then here, again, it's a highlight, but it's not white. And there. Need to get it a little darker right here. And then we have that super dark in here. Let's get that on. just fixing here a little bit. Want it really dark around there. There. See, the darker you make those other things, the more the highlights start standing up, standing out. And it's quite dark actually down here. Again, be careful with those little droplets. And then I just want to use this one. Just make it a softer edge. Don't want any hard edges here. There. And going to deal with around the eye here. Actually, I think there's a little tiny bit of like blue reflecting down here. Whoops, that's too much. Just, I wanted to get just a hint of kind of like a blue reflecting here. So I just dipped in a blue puddle that I have right here. That blue is Phthalo Sapphire by Winsor Newton. It's a color I hardly ever use, but it happened to be on my palette. You could use a Phthalo Blue, would be just fine. There's a little bit of that blue also up here. You know, I want to put more attention to the eye, so that's where I put in a little bit of a different color. Just, you know, that's going to draw your attention. And then here, there's a little bit of blue in the reflections. Because, you know, it's probably sitting in a nest and reflecting the sky. So I can see a little bit of blue in the reflections here. Might even give it that little bit of blue in there. And I'm doing it in a curved, kind of a curved motion. And it's barely noticeable, but there's a little bit of blue there. A little bit more. Yeah. Okay, everything is dry now, and I just want to continue just, you know, doing a few little things. A little black there. And I think I have a little bit more I can do on the beak. Just reinforce the black a couple of places. So lamp black that I'm using here is a really, really black. Some of the other blacks tend to fade a little bit more when they dry. But even this one, you can see it's, you know, it's not like super duper black. So I want to just intensify and build it up a little bit more. So I want it, there's like a little ridge around this thing here. So put that ring around, and I'm sorry, I'm going to show you just a little, you know, detail here and there. I can't show you the whole picture because I think it's copyrighted, and I just don't want to get in trouble with, you know, using a copyrighted photo on my YouTube channel. It's okay to use photos for reference and stuff like that, especially for, you know, like a natural thing. But it's not okay to use it, you know, in public, so to speak. So I want to be very careful with that and respect other creators' artistic property. What else? It's definitely, I feel I need to use a little bit of a larger one. That was the little number 3. Now let's not fiddle around too much. And definitely the beak down here is quite a bit, it's like really black, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And there's a, there. And then I'm going to rinse it out before it dries on me, hopefully before it dries on me, and just kind of soften those edges like that. Just give it a little bit more shape. And I'm going to start indicating it. It just has little like fuzzy feathers there. Yeah. And just do a little bit on the other side too here. And it's definitely darker right here and there. And again, this is not, you know, this is not meant for the Audubon Society. This is just an impression of this little chick. Just softening a little bit. There. And then there's kind of a little bit more darkness here. And then there's a little bit of a highlight on there, but it's a soft highlight, so we'll blur the edge a little bit. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to lift out some highlights once we get to that point. And it's like there's a little, I don't know if I can do it now, we'll try. Yeah, like that. There. I'm going to call that good for now. And then around the eye here, it's dark. So we're going to put some clean water on here first. And then we're just going to push the water out like this. It's in that direction, kind of like the direction of how the feathers go. And then they go around here. So I just want to have a little bit of water on because I don't want it completely black, and I want to see if I can get the properties of the lamp black to help me here. We'll see how that goes. It's definitely black around the eye and also quite a bit in here. And I want to get some of that feathery action around the eye. And let's see. See that I'm doing these kinds of strokes into the damp. So it's pretty black around the eye, and then, you know, it gets more gray and white as we go out. Little dry brushing is also really good. So here where it's dry, I can see I'm getting a little dry brushing right now. That's awesome. That's kind of what I want. Yeah. And then there's, darken it a little bit around this eye. It's good if we can get a lot of this in while it's still a little bit damp. So we get a little bit of those fuzzy lines. Be really good. And then again, a little bit of dry brushing so we can get that happening. That's also awesome. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely beginning to look right. I like that. Okay, I let everything dry and I can, you know, just kind of look at it a little bit. And now I'm going to paint this little area where the sky is, and that's the sky that's reflecting in the little Petrel's eyes, little chick's eyes. And I want to use a big brush and just wet. And I want to wet into the chick's head a little bit. And the body, there's a little bit of the body you can see here. I mean, you know, these chicks, they're just big, you know, fuzz balls, you know. So it's not much shape to them. And here we've zoomed way in to the head of the chick. And just kind of doing a little bit like this. A little bit more water on. And I'm kind of pushing my brush in so that I hopefully get some like uneven edges. And let's get some of this. And the color I'm using here, it's not a color that I usually have in my palette. And this is a different palette than what I usually use. But once in a while I like to mix it up. And I just wanted to let you know that this is Phthalo Sapphire from Winsor Newton. And I'll show you in a second. Better get moving here on this before it dries on me. So I'm starting out from the edges and just kind of letting it run in towards the head. Just want to have a little bit of background. Like that. And down here. Okay. And that's going to be good enough. Just going to pick up extra a bit of runny stuff there. And I'm going to have to let this dry a little bit. And I'm going to hold it like this. Oh, can you see? Yes. And I'm just going to run it off here, off the edge. Just wanted a little bit of that blue in the background. That's all. And then, before this completely dries, and here I have a little bit of blue on my, tiniest bit of blue on my brush here. Let's just carefully run some water around here. That's the body that we can see. So again, that's going to be all that fluff. And I want to get it, and I'm not going to touch into the blue here. Just almost up to the blue on this side. So I'm just doing the bottom part here. Like that. And now the blue is beginning to dry, so I can kind of just touch in. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to go back to my black, back to black. And I'm going to put a little bit of the black, kind of watered down, because you know the chick is kind of grayish. And it has a little bit of white flecks in it. And now I'm going to put that on like this. And I want to have some of the white show through still. And I want to, can you see how that's pushing up there? That's what I wanted. And then some of the water is also pushing up. So that's like, hopefully looking, I want to get in here, looking like the down on this chick is, you know, just, you know, it's unruly. And that's how it is. And here it's all, you know, curly, and it's a little bit darker right down here. And there's a little bit of a, where the beak is still, so there's a little bit of a hard edge there, and then it gets all fluffy. So lots of water. I could have used a bigger one. And remember to leave some space for the white to show through, because it's kind of muddled. You know, they're, you know, when they are in the nest, they have to be kind of disguised. And then here, a little bit of dry brushing here where I didn't leave any water. Wish that was too dark. So now I'm just gonna put in some water. But I don't mind, this is okay. And here it gets some dry brushing going here at that edge. And we can also drop in some water, especially here we got it a little dark, and then some dry brushing here. I think I might even try the little dot bottom there. I like what's happening there. That looks good, I think. Just want to get rid of the hard edges there. Yeah, look at that. That is awesome in my book, because that looks exactly like the down. And so I'm just dropping in some droplets here, and then here out on the edge, which is kind of grayish. That'll be good. You can also drop in a little bit more pigment here and there, just to get there. I'm gonna leave it like that and let that dry first. But see, I like that uneven edges. So the only place where you don't have any uneven edges right here, because that's still part of the head and the beak, and then and a little bit here, because there's also this little bit of feathers here. You know, kind of they get the feathers, and I kind of think they start more or less at the head, and then, you know, slowly the feathers replace the down, is what I think. I'm no expert. And what else? Is there anything else? Yeah, I just want to, can you see down here? I just want to make that all kind of disappear. Nothing, never want anything super interesting on the edges. That's never good. I mean, we might even be able to, you could even, you know, think about putting some salt in. I'm not going to do that, I don't think. Well, what the heck? We could. Let's just put a little bit of salt in, just down here, just to see. There, just a little bit. And we'll see if anything happens. And if something happens, we hope it's something good, right? So I'm gonna let that dry, but I'm pretty encouraged the way things are moving along here. Really, I am. I see one little thing that should be just here. Right here is a little, I just wanna obscure that. There's just some little white areas that were not helpful. Yeah, let's let it dry, and then we'll reconvene, and then we'll paint the rest of the head. I'm happy with what's happening out here, and I'm okay with, you know, the edges. They could be a little bit better, but it's okay. I think once I get the black in, it'll probably be just fine. Might try to get rid of a little bit of that hard edge here, if I can. I think it's already dried. It's okay. There, got rid of a little bit of that hard edge. You know, hard edges, they always draw your eye. And if it's in areas where you don't really want the viewer to look, it's better to kind of soften the edges. But again, I still have the black that goes in here, so I think it'll work out just fine. Yeah. Now I'm really letting it dry. I think I'm gonna go, maybe I'm gonna go for a walk while this dries, and then I'll come back and I'll have fresh eyes to look at my work with. That's always a good plan. So I'll see you in a little bit, and for you, I'll see you in a second. Okay, let's take a look at our little chick now that it has dried. I'm very happy. I think this looks really great, and it's a little out of focus, which is perfect, pushes it back. And here I got a little bit more texture because I put the salt in, and I sprayed into it a little bit, remember? And now I want to take the salt off. And I'm just going to turn off. I do it with my hands first, and then in the wetter areas there's going to be salt grains that won't come off by just brushing them, so I need to use my credit card, and it's an awful sound, so I'm not going to do it on camera. I'm just going to do it, well, I can do it, and then I'm just going to take the sound off later when I edit. How about that? I don't want to. It's off, and look, I think this looks really, really nice. I'm very happy with it. So far, so good, is all I can say. Let's see here. There's some little pencil marks here. Should probably have taken those off earlier. That's okay. Let's not stress over that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that area right here. Let's see. What should I do? Should I save that for last and then do this part? I think I should. So that means I need to take a bigger brush. Take a big old brush and then get clean water into the areas. So I'm actually gonna do it all the way down to the eye here, just so I don't get any weird shapes around the eye. And then I'm gonna do like this. I've got a few drops there. And just do it out like this. And around here. And like here. So I'm just going to put the water in here around the eyes, and we're going to go all the way into the eye here, even though I'm going to keep this part that I already painted. I'm going to try and keep that untouched. And like that. I think that's about right. And then I'm going to just spray a little bit around the edges here to get some really uneven edges, and maybe even a little bit in here, just so I get a little bit of uneven, kind of more scalloped edges. And then we are going to go in with some of the black, but I don't want it too dark. So I'm kind of aiming for something along what I have here, and I think I might throw a little salt in. And here I'm going to do some little like shapes like that. And then here I'm going to do these kind of stripy shapes. And I'm going to spray in a little bit just to diffuse, so it doesn't get too like this. And again, your spray bottle is your best friend here, I think. Yeah, it just has all these little curly cues almost. And then if it gets a little too dark, let's go in and just directly put some drops in. Yeah, that's good. And now I can put a little bit of that in here. And let's let that run. So, just having fun with it. And it's really a lot darker in here. And then let's get some more water drops in these areas to spread out the pigment more. And it's just a matter of getting that nice kind of really fluffy edge. No hard lines, just nice and fluffy. And then I think I might take just our little tiny brush, and let's see how that would go. Just to see if we can pull out a little bit. And I go a little bit circular. It's almost like it's like a little curly haired. It's just down, you know, it's just very fluffy. And And let's put a little bit of even paint on this little tiny thing. And let's do some little curlicues here. This is all an experiment, you know. This is, you know, I haven't painted with this color before. And I haven't painted this subject before. So you get to see, experiment firsthand. But you know, it's just fun. And then let's try and drop some bigger drops in by just doing like this. Like this. And I think we should put some salt on, because I think we need a little bit more texture here. Let's see how that'll go. Especially out of the edges there. And you can see it's not drying equally. It's wetter some places and dry some places. Yeah. Very exciting. I think it's, yeah, I think it's coming to life pretty good. Pretty good. See if we can. There's a couple of blobs there I didn't really like too much. There. And then I think I can go in while this is still drying. I'm going to go in and do some rows like this, curvy. And let's put a little bit of water in to let it run down and run into these wet areas and spread in like this manner, because that's like feathers right here. And then from here there's some little tiny feathers that go kind of like this way. And I want to get all this done before things dry too much, because I think it's important that we get that fuzzing out effect. And just a little bit of that kind of feathery. And we can always use a little bit of white later if we need to. And then, you know, it goes like this a little bit. Get a little bit of dry brushing if I can get that. And we have to make sure we don't get it too regular. You know, that's always bad. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting some good effect there. I like that. Happy with that. Just going to scribble a little bit there. And then here we just going to put in some dry brushing. And maybe I should do it, that was in my number 3. I need to do it with my number 8. So dry brushing, obviously you can't have too much water on, so we need to dapping it over there on my little water control station. And then let's see, so when you dry brush, you want to have, you know, it's kind of, your brush kind of horizontal. So you're just kind of, you know, dragging your brush over. Get a little bit of that dry brushing in here. Over the paper. And so it just hits those little bumps in the paper. And you've got to do it in the right direction, obviously. So a little curvy here, a little more like that here. There. Take a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then here, what's happening here is, need to get a little water in here. Spritz on a little bit of water. But of course that's where also you're getting more of that more unruly down. It's coming down here, kind of connecting. So there. I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it so far. You know, you can't really tell. Now I'm going in just with some water on my brush, right where it lost the shine, because, you know, then you're gonna get some runbacks. And actually, you know, we're always working on not having our runbacks, but this is one of those few situations where you actually want runbacks. So let's see if we can get a few more in, and I can do it also here in that direction. Yeah, I like it. Dab in a few. Okay, I think I need to leave it for now, and then we can fine tune once everything's dry and we can see what we got. Okay, everything has dried now, and I'm very happy with the result. I'm gonna take the salt off, and so I'm just gonna turn the sound off while I do that. And there's just a few little things. I mean, being me, I could fiddle with this for hours to just perfect this, that, and the other thing. But when I look at it at the correct distance, which is, you know, not like this, it's like, you know, I pop it up and then I step away from it and then I look at it, and I look at it, oops, there's a little bit of salt there. I look at it in the mirror, so I get it flipped. That way it kind of brings me a step away from it. Or the other thing that I often do is I take a picture of it and I look at it on my phone, and that tells me whether, you know, something is off or not. I don't think a whole lot of things are off here. I could leave it just exactly the way it is, but there are just a couple of things that I would like to do. There's a little bit of fixing by the eye, I feel. And that's, you know, now I'm out, you know, have my little itsy tiny pen. And so I'm just gonna straighten up a few things that bother me here. And then pretty soon we're gonna call it a day and not tinker with it too much. This is, you know, I'm not after photorealism, and this is already pretty close to being that. Not, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like super abstracted, really. But I like it. I think it turned out good. And the main thing is that, you know, it's an experiment to see how this lamp black that I've seen certain artists use, because of how it reacts in water and gives us all these lovely textures. And so here's a little bit here, like that. So this is all, and this is honestly not really necessary, but I'm doing it. So I think it's pretty good. Took a couple of those little away. And yeah, I already like the eye better now. I think that's better. And I think maybe I should lift out. There's a little bit here where it needed a little bit more of a highlight in that kind of wet area. And then again, just fine tune that. Like that. I think that's pretty good. Let's see here, what else can we think of? I think I'm pretty happy with most of the other things. There was one thing here. I think you would be able to see like a little bit of the other nostril. So let's see here. It just it's, you know, it's everything is looking so black on this bird, so this is not something you have to deal with if you don't want to. Didn't do a darn thing, so let's try it again. Not really. So I don't know, maybe this brush is just too fine. Might have to go to a little bit more of a scrubber brush. I did test out, as I always do for my binder with my color swatches, lamp black, and you can see it's pretty staining. It's not that easy to lift anything out. Just wanted a little bit of a light ring, and it's kind of like a side view, so you can't really see. And let it sit for just a moment. Not really doing much. And this again, it's not something that's going to make a huge difference in the painting. It's my little obsession here. There was one other thing that I thought could be a good idea, and that was getting a little bit of the blue from our sky, that color, that sapphire blue, and put a thin veil over part of the beak here. Oops, not outside there. Just, you know, because if it's a little shiny, it'll be reflecting the sky and probably the water. This is, you know, a bird that's probably nesting in some high cliffs or something like that above the ocean, like, you know, seagull colonies and that kind of stuff. So I'm just putting a little bit of that in. So it's not like blue, but it has a little bit of that shine. And I put a little bit in here too, in these highlights here. And again, that's completely, utterly optional. Not something you have to do if you don't feel that that's what you want to do. Don't feel like you have to do this. And then here underneath, it's really black. So I'm just giving the beak a little bit more oomph, so to speak. And then I'm going to try and do some little tiny bitty strokes here, because the feathers, they meet up with the beak here. There. Just a little bit like that. So, and then, let's see, then the point of the beak, it's not quite, that's very pointy, so I think we just need to just give it a little bit of a rounding. Little tiny bit of a rounding. And then let's just put that up like that. There. And this is, here we can also do a little bit of, I am beginning to get a little bit of that extra, you know, not extra, but other nostril. It's barely visible. And now let's clean up my brush a little bit and then just kind of blend this in. And then some little, again we'll do some of those little tiny little strokes where the beak and the feathered part of the bird meets. And this is where I'm thinking we probably will take a little bit of a white with gel pen. I have my gel pen here, and so we can do a little bit with the white gel pen to just kind of perfect it a little bit, if we so choose. And now let's see this area also. I thought that could be a good one to also just give it a little bit of that bluish tinge right here. Just a little bit here. It's just an undertone. And I think it makes, yeah, I like that. I'm standing up so that I can see it in the camera. Because for that same reason that I just mentioned earlier, that sometimes it really helps if you can kind of get a degree of separation, so to speak, from your subject matter. It's hard to judge it when we're sitting here so close. So, is there anything else I felt? Not super much. So here I'm going to go with my white gel pen, and I'm just going to go and just do a little bit like this. Some of those little tiny feathers or down or whatever that are and you can also do a couple up here, just a couple, don't do too many, just a couple of places where you feel maybe that it needs to be broken up a little bit. And there's a highlight right there on the eye, and you can smudge it a little bit or use your little pen, just put a little bit of water on just so it's not so there. And again, barely noticeable and probably barely worth the effort, but so here I get a little bit also of those white. But I think I should probably stop pretty darn soon so we don't overdo it and end up taking away from it instead of improving it. There. And I'm going to take a look here. There's a couple of little edges here by the beak. It just needs, I'm taking my little tiny brush and I'm just getting rid of the white sparkle just so it doesn't draw your eye. There. And that again is also kind of, you know, getting a little finicky. Okay, I went and got myself my little, it's a masking fluid applicator brush from Creative Mark, but I like to use it for lifting. So I'm you know, determined to try and see if I can get this little edge lifted out, which is kind of ridiculous because it really doesn't make any difference in this painting, but there you have it. There, and I probably, it really does not lift very well. And since it's such a tiny area, you know, I don't want to go scrubbing or anything like that. Probably is one of those where I should probably just put a little bit of that white on and then dab some of it off. Or take my little itsy bitsy brush and just soften it. So there, that's what I want it to have, that little thing. Yeah, I think that is how it is. And then it's a little bit lighter on right here. And these are just such minute little details, and again, really not something you should be obsessing too much about. So I'm gonna lift that out. There. Yeah, there we are. And then it's like a little bit darker. There, a little bit darker here and there, and then just run that out. That was a lot of fuss for very, very minute detail. There, now I'm happy. It's barely there, right? But it makes me happy, so well, just roll with it. Slightly obsessive. It's okay. Are there any other places that needs to be darkened a little bit? I do feel that, you know, right here's a little place where we could darken a little bit, and then I really think we should just, you know, somebody forced me to put the brush down, right? Of course, it's getting ridiculous. Okay, I think we got ourselves a really cute little chick here, all fuzzy and feathery, and so that was fun. And we really only used the lamp black, and then for the sky I used the Sapphire Blue from Winsor Newton. So these are the two colors that I used. Phthalo Sapphire from Winsor Newton. That's a PB15:6. So it is a phthalo blue, and this one is probably what they would call red shade, and then the lamp black, which is PBK6. And you can see that we used it because it does that wonderful thing in the water. And then it's pitch black when you give it, that's the second coat. So you can see, you cannot see even that black line, and this is where I lifted it out. 3 scrubs, I do the same, and you can also see the sapphire, phthalo sapphire from Winsor Newton. It's also, you know, phthalo blues are staining colors too. So, and then we use some salt, a little bit of salt, and we used a white gel pen, and that's it. I hope you'll give it a go. And if you don't have a lamp black, use another color, preferably a granulating color. That would work. So have fun and let me know how it goes. See you soon in another video. Happy painting!